no problem, no problem. All right. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Waalaikum
Walaikum
salam.
assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
All right. So I hope you all receive me well on your end. Inshallah, if not, I will try to make a few adjustments with the sound. But hopefully everything is fine. So today, inshallah, we are going to start a new chapter of the Quran, which is Surah Al-Kafirun, chapter 109 of the Quran. This chapter has 6 verses, 6 ayat. And as usual, we are going to first, before we start, we are going to review our previous chapter from last week, which is Surah Al-Kawthar. We are going to recite it together. So who wants to recite Surah Al-Kawthar? You can raise your hand to volunteer or tell us about your choice to recite. Bismillah. Okay, so Brother Yusuf followed by Sister Farzana. Brother Yusuf, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك كوثر فصل لربك وانهر إن شانئك هو الأبتر إن شانئك هو الأبتر.
Good, mashallah. Good job, Brother Yusuf, mashallah. Inna
Jazakallah khair.
wal abtar. Wa iyyakum, brother, wa iyyakum. Okay, Sister Farzana, how about you? Would you like to recite?
Yeah, sure. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر.
Okay, mashallah. Good job, sister. All right. So this chapter, Surah Al-Kawthar, was last week's. Today we have a new chapter, is Surah Al-Kafirun. So let me first recite this chapter for you, brothers and sisters, and then we'll get into the tafsir. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين. Okay. So I'm quite confident that everybody has memorized this chapter, and you probably use it also for your salah. So let's get into the tafsir. Ahlul ilm, people of knowledge, have actually debated, like last week's chapter, whether this is a Meccan or a Medinan chapter. So there's no clear 100% consensus on whether this is a Meccan or Medinan chapter. But regardless, inshallah, this surah, this blessed surah, is called Surah Al-Kafirun. But it's also, people also call it Surah Al-Ikhlas. Now, let me explain to you. Actually, there's 2 Surah Al-Ikhlas, Surah Al-Samad and Surah Al-Kafirun. So, Surah Al-Samad, which we all know by Surah Al-Ikhlas, and Surah Al-Kafirun. So, those 2, according to many people of knowledge, have said that these 2 are called also Surah Al-Ikhlas. And they are both called Surah Al-Ikhlas because they combine 2 forms of pure monotheism, Tawheed, 2 pure forms of monotheism. So, as you know, if you have maybe taken some courses on basics of Islam and Tawheed, Tawheed is of 2 types. Monotheism is of 2 types. We have monotheism of, I'm going to say it in English first and then I'll translate, I'll tell you in Arabic. So monotheism of intent and seeking, and monotheism of knowledge and proof. Or in Arabic, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. Okay, so Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is the monotheism of knowledge, which in Arabic is al-Ma'rifah, and also of proof, which is al-Ithbat. So again, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, the monotheism is a monotheism of knowledge, al-Ma'rifah, knowledge of Allah, and proof, or al-Ithbat. While Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, the monotheism of Uluhiyyah, is the monotheism of qasd, intent, and at-talab, which is seeking. All right, so this is just technical knowledge, but we are going to get into the things that concern us the most, because we said that these two chapters, both Surah Al-Ikhlas, which is Surah Al-Samad, and Surah Al-Kafirun, also called Surah Al-Ikhlas, deal with monotheism. So if we take Surah Al-Samad, قُلْ وَاللَّهُ أَحَدْ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدْ, it spoke about Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, or the monotheism of divinity, of knowledge, and proof, knowledge of God, blessed and most high, his names and his attributes, glory be to him. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. Because Surah Al-Ikhlas is also called Surah Al-Samad. Surah Al-Kafirun, on the other end, is also called Surah Al-Ikhlas according to people of knowledge. But this surah is concerned with Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, or the monotheism of divinity, of worship, of intention, of seeking. Okay? Now, these two chapters, meaning Surah Al-Kafirun and Surah Al-Ikhlas, or Surah As-Samad, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to be very keen on reciting them a lot. If you actually read about the Sunnah and the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would recite these two chapters in the two rak'ahs of Tawaf, during Tawaf, and he would recite them in the two rak'ah of Fajr, especially, you know, for the Sunnah. And of course, we are talking about the two rak'ah just after Al-Fatiha, right? And another thing to show you the importance of these two chapters, meaning Surah Samad and Surah Al-Kafirun, in Sahih Muslim, it is mentioned that these chapters are the equivalent of 1/3 of the Quran. So Surah Al-Ikhlas or Surah As-Samad is equivalent to 1/3 of the Quran, while Surah Al-Kafirun is equivalent to 1/4 of the Quran. And there is a hadith to attest these two sayings. So in fact, what that means is that whoever recites one of these chapters 3 or 4 times, it is as if he has recited the entire Quran. And this shows the status and the importance of these two chapters, meaning Surah Al-Samad, also known as Surah Al-Ikhlas, and Surah Al-Kafirun. Okay, so let's get to the tafsir now, inshallah, because this is a relatively short chapter, so I will tell you a bit more about it, inshallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam here in the first verse, and he says to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, say to the unbelievers, "O you unbelievers, I do not worship what you worship." Tell them. Because if we go back to the source of this chapter, why was this chapter revealed, brothers and sisters? Because the disbelievers of Quraysh, they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they told him, they made a proposal to him. They said, how about this? You worship our gods for 1 year and we will worship your God the next year. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this chapter and said to him, this is absolutely unacceptable, because Allah has no need for this type of worship and does not accept a partner. Azza wa Jal, the Most High subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is on the richest of partners. He doesn't need any partner. God never accepts partnership. So this is shirk. So tell them, I do not worship what you worship. So nor, ayah number 3, nor do you worship what I worship. So then Allah is giving further instructions to the Prophet ﷺ, then confirm it to them a second time. If they do not pay attention to you, tell them, I will never worship what you worship. neither now nor in the future. Neither will you in the future ever worship what I worship. So, and in the end, in the conclusion of this chapter, you have a religion, you have a way, and I have my way. So, subhanAllah, this is explaining to us the reasons for the revelation of this chapter. Why? What is it revealed? So, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. This chapter begins after seeking refuge and saying, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. Say, oh, you disbelievers. This speech is from Allah to Rasulullah, as we said. When we talk about al-kafirun here, this refers to not only the disbelievers who actually lived during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but also who preceded his time, and who lived during his time, and who lived after his time, and who lived during our time, and who will live after our time. So it is an address to all the unbelievers, regardless of the time. So whether it's a Jew, a Christian, a Magian, a Hindu, a Buddhist, you just can enumerate any disbeliever. It is for all disbelievers of all times. And we know in our deen it's very clear cut. There are just two categories. Either you believe or you disbelieve. There is no gray zone. There is no in between. There is no third category here. So whoever is not a Muslim is an unbeliever. And there's a word called infidel they use in English. Regardless of the level of infidelity, on how the nature of that infidelity or a specific type of infidelity or disbelief or kufr, still it is kufr. And even the kuffar will differ in their disbelief, because we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that the hypocrites are in the lowest level of hell, the lowest level of hell. But it doesn't mean that the rest of the kafirun are in the gardens of bliss or Jannah. Right? They're all in the same, they're all in hell. But the point is that an-nar, the fire, has what we called in the past darakat, levels, different levels, and each level has its people. And al-Jannah has darajat. So you see the difference between an-nar, al-Jannah. An-nar has darakat with kaf, darakat, levels, and al-Jannah has darajat with jim. And each daraja has its people, the people who belong there. So just to kind of summarize my speech here, just don't want to go over too much. This al-kafirun is for all the kafirun, all the kafirun, all of them, from all times immemorial until the future, until the end of times. Okay, it's not just the disbelievers only from the times of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of the disbelievers. Now, from this verse, we get a little bit into fiqh, Islamic jurisprudence. From this verse, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ, Imam al-Shafi'i radiyallahu anhu took the view that the people of different religious affiliations or lack of religious affiliations, meaning they don't believe in anything, they do not inherit from one another. You understand what I mean? It means that a Muslim does not inherit from a disbeliever. And it's also true for the other way around. A disbeliever does not inherit from a Muslim. So this is in Sahih al-Bukhari, meaning if a Muslim man, his father was a disbeliever and died, the Muslim father does not give his inheritance, or like the Muslim son does not get inheritance from his kafir father. And likewise, the same for the progeny, the children. A Muslim father whose children inherit him, if they are not believers, they will not inherit him. Okay? So the disbeliever and the believer do not inherit each other. So this is the fiqh of Imam al-Shafi'i. But now there's a question. We're talking about believers and disbelievers. Now we talk about, how about the disbelievers? Do they inherit each other? Meaning, does an infidel inherit another infidel? Sorry if I talk about this, because this is an issue of fiqh. It's an important issue. And for instance, if one person is a Jew and the other person is a Christian, the father is a Jew, the son is a Christian, do they inherit from each other? Imam Shafi'i said yes, because this verse says قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ, so they are just the same. They are all people of the same, they are all the same in one lot, one entity, and they will inherit from one another. Okay, because Allah says, say, oh, you unbelievers. It included all the unbelievers. But Imam Ahmad radiallahu anhu took a different approach and said that people of two disbelieving sects or religions do not inherit each other. So for instance, those who follow one religion inherit from the Jews. So the Jew will inherit from Jews, but the Christian cannot inherit from a Jew if his parent is a Jew. And the Buddhist cannot inherit from a Jew, and so on and so forth. And Allahu Alam, this is just a little parenthesis of fiqh. Now, coming back to this chapter, brothers and sisters, this qul is an address from Allah. And Allah is addressing His Prophet ﷺ, as we said. And He's aiming to send this message to the infidels, to the disbelievers. This is because, as we said, as we mentioned, Rasulullah was approached by al-kuffar, the disbelievers, and they said to him, let's do this deal. You worship your God 1 year, and you worship ours another year. We will also do the same. We worship our God 1 year, or our gods, multiple gods 1 year, and the next year, we will worship your Allah. So let's do a combination like that. Huh? Deal or no deal? So they actually wanted to mix shirk and tawheed, and this is unacceptable because these two cannot be brought together. They wanted to make a cocktail of shirk and tawheed, but Allah will never accept this. It's not a deal. So the reason why they came with such a petty arrangement is because their relationship with their God is very weak. It's a relationship based on interest, a relationship based on, it's a business-like, worldly type of relationship. When they get what they want, they would forget about their gods. And for this reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, here, let me show you. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ. And yet among the people are those who take other than Allah as equals to Him. They love these equals as they should love Allah. But how about the believers? وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. But those who believe, the Muslims, are stronger in love for Allah. Meaning that our love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is stronger than the love of the disbelievers for their gods, their deities. Because on the day of resurrection, they will come and they will disavow each other, they will curse each other, they will deny their deities. But for the Muslim, alhamdulillah, our love for our Lord is much stronger than that. And we know from different stories that disbelievers may change from one God to another based on their interest or their needs. So they will worship one God today, then tomorrow will be a different God. And there's even stories about people from Jahiliyyah, you know, Muslims who used to be in the times of ignorance, they used to worship the false deities. And they used to say that we used to make our gods out of dates, tamr. Then when we are hungry, we would eat those gods. And then later we would make other gods out of dates. So the relationship of the disbeliever with the God that he is worshipping is a weak relationship. It's a weak relationship. It's they have no objection over this relationship being done, meaning just being done with this relationship. Once they get their things done, they will just forget about it. So the proposal that they came with to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, worship your God, we'll worship your God 1 year, and then you worship ours another one, alternating year after year, Allah revealed this chapter. Now we come to the repetition because this chapter has repetition, and many people have argued, why do we have repetition, especially starting from verse 2 until verse 5? Saying, لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد. So especially verse 5 and verse 3. They are literally almost the same, right? Yeah. So the people of tafsir looked into this and they asked whether this is actually a repetition or not. So we have two, they actually more than two, there's 4 or 5 different interpretations for whether this is repetition, tikrar or not. So some people said that yes, there is repetition. And they pointed out that this is repetition for emphasis. In Arabic, we call it ta'keed, and for an increase in understanding. So if someone doesn't understand, you have to repeat it more than once. And then ta'keed, meaning emphasis, is something which you will find in the chapters of Tawheed. So when there is monotheism and Tawheed, there is always a very clear ta'keed, which is repetition, emphasis, because there is no room for doubt. So when there is Tawheed, there should be no room for doubt, no hesitation. So that is why there is a repetition here. And this is okay because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses or has revealed in the Quran several verses where there is a lot of repetition. So for instance, we have Surah Al-Rahman. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. That's repeated again and again in this chapter, right? You know, right? You know, brothers and sisters, that already. So we have that repetition. We also have it in Surah Al-Mursalat. Surah Al-Mursalat. فَوَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. Woe to the deniers on that day. وَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. This is in Surah Al-Mursalat. فَوَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. It's repeated more than once or twice. And we find also a repetition in Surah Al-Sharh. أَلَمْ نَشْرَحْ لَكَ صَدْرَكَ. At the end we have فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. So twice, right? So for with hardship comes ease, indeed with hardship comes ease. It was repeated also. So the people who said that this indeed is repetition, they said that repetition is important for emphasis, and there is no objection to it in the Quran. And also, in culturally speaking, it's found in the speech of the Arabs. The Arabs also use it a lot as a feature of their speech. When increasing in emphasis and understanding, they will say, they will use repetition a lot. One word or one expression repeated twice. So that's the first statement that says, yes, there is repetition. A second statement or a second saying among the scholars of the Quran, they say there is no repetition. Surprising. Why? Because they say that each verse has a different meaning. It's not the same. So it means that قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ, the first one, say, oh disbelievers, لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ. I do not worship what you worship, meaning today, right now, today. Nor do you worship what I worship. And the fourth verse, وَلَا أَنَا عَابِدٌ مَا عَبَدْتُمْ, here is talking about the future, so not the present. Okay, I will never worship what you worship, and then وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ, nor will you ever worship what I worship. So meaning that the first two, verse 2 and 3, are about the present situation, and the last two, meaning 4 and 5, are about the future. I'm neither doing it now, nor will I ever do it. And that is an interesting dimension, because you remember what they came to the Prophet with, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They said to him, do it this year this way, and next year we do it this way. Worship our gods this year, next year we'll worship your God. So the verse was, the chapter was revealed neither today nor tomorrow. I will not do it now, and I will not do it in the future. You see here the dimension of time. So that is why they say, those different scholars have said this is actually not repetition, but the meaning in verse 5 and verse 3 are different. One is talking about present, and the other is talking about the future. Even in the translation, you see it. It says here, nor do you worship present what I worship, and here, nor will you ever worship what I worship. Although in Arabic, it sounds the same. Okay? So the first speaks of today, the second speaks of the future. So that's why they say there is no repetition here, but the meaning is different. And the last verse here, brothers and sisters, verse number 6 says, لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِ. You have your way, and I have my way. So the word deen, deen, literally speaking, if we analyze it in terms of worship, it's what a servant owes his Lord. It's what a servant, al-abd, owes to his Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or what a servant draws closer to Allah with. It's with deen. And it is in which there is reckoning, there is recompense, and from it is the saying, Malik Yawmiddin, Master of the Day of Judgment, the Day of Reckoning. Okay, so some people will translate it as religion, and some people will translate it as the Day of Judgment, Maliki Yawmuddin, Maliki Yawmuddin, Maliki Yawmuddin, Yawmuddin, sorry. So now, if you analyze this verse, and this is, remember, addressed to the disbelievers, right? People, if they read this, they say, oh, Allah is saying, you have your way and I have my way. As if he is informing them, okay, you go your way and I go my way. As if it's a notification or an information, meaning that, okay, they are telling you that's your way and that's our way. But this is not informing them, this is threatening them. This is not information, this is threat. It is a threat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it can be interpreted as follows. Like the Muslims, we can say we have our deeds and you have your deeds. Like we say you have your way and we have our way, but it's also you have your deeds, which is a consequences of your way, and we have our deeds. And this is a threat to you because you have a religion, but wait for what comes on the day of resurrection. Just wait. It means that, okay, you have your way and we have our way, but just wait for what's coming to you. All right, so it's a threat, actually. It's not just informing them. And this is similar in a way to another chapter of the Quran, which is Surah Ibrahim, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also informing the disbelievers that he knows. Look at the chapter. The verse is the following. Verse number 42. ولا تحسبن الله غافلا عما يعمل الظالمون إنما يؤخرهم ليوم تشخص فيه الأبصار. Do not think, O Prophet, that Allah is unaware of what the wrongdoers do. He knows. He only delays them until a day when their eyes will stare in horror. So here the information, informing them that Allah knows what they are doing, there's an implicit threat that we know what you're doing, so what's coming to you is your punishment. You are going to have the reward for what you used to do. So the last verse is not just information, that Allah is actually giving them rather a threat. So inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to stop for the tafsir here, and I hope that I was not confusing. And if you have questions or any comments, inshallah, we can accommodate those, or maybe we can talk about them. Next week, we will start a new chapter, inshallah. It's chapter 110, and it's Surah Al-Nasr. Surah Al-Nasr. Okay, let's see if you have any questions, inshallah. Please raise your hands, or maybe if you want to make a comment about the tafsir and adding to our tafsir, that would be great too as well. So let's see. Any comments, any questions, any maybe reflections?
Yes, I want to add something.
Yes,
When
sister.
should we read these ayah according to hadith, then it should be read in Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has used to read in the Fajr prayer,
So there is
Surah
the
Ikhlas, and then
Sunnah
Surah
of Fajr,
Kafirun, Surah
from what I can remember,
Ikhlas, Surah
and there
Ikhlas,
is
and then Surah
uh-huh,
Kafirun.
yes,
And also in Maghrib prayer
yes, there is another saying
in
in
Sunnah.
Maghrib. Actually, I heard it's
Yeah,
also in Asr, not in
also
Maghrib, if I'm not mistaken.
the
And there is also, you know, in
with the prayer.
witr prayer, so we have Surah Al-A'la, followed by Al-Kafirun and Al-Ikhlas at the end. That's another one.
And also at night, we should read it at night as well, before sleeping.
Yeah, that's right. At night, and then I think is it 3 times? 3 times at night.
3 times.
الإخلاص قل أعوذ برب الفلق قل أعوذ برب الناس.
Yeah,
And
four
also,
call. We had it 4 call.
and also there is another one after Fajr for dhikr, after the prayer actually. There is reading Al-Ikhlas and Al-Falaq and An-Nas 3 times, but not Al-Kafirun.
Yeah, only Surah Ikhlas 3 times, Surah Falaq 3 times, and Surah Nas 3 times, right?
Right, that's
For
correct.
the protection for the whole day.
Yeah, so that's what I can think of right now. There is also here, from what I have collected, that let me see. Where is it?
Yes.
I'm sorry, let me just go back to my notes. Okay. It says that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you would recite them in the 2 rak'ah of Tawaf.
Also in Tawaf. Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I heard about that.
This is what is reported here from what I've written down. And 2 rak'ah of Fajr. Thank you for reminding us this, to take notes, to pay attention to that. Jazakallah khair.
Hopefully, yeah, go.
Do you have more questions or comments, please? Okay. Now, let's practice our recitations. Oh, by the way, I just remember one more thing. Okay. So I have 2 comments to add, inshallah. You see here, lakum dinukum waliya din. In Arabic, normally, it should be dini. You have your religion, I have my religion. It should be dini with ya. And my religion, dini. But for the sake of, you know, it's for the sake of smoothness of recitation, there is only kasra and not ya. The same one, I think Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam says, فَإِذَا مَرَضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينَ. If I'm not mistaken, I don't want to misquote the verse. Let me see. I want to actually give you Quran, and if I am sick, he heals me. Let me see. He restores my health. Quran 26:80. Let me see. Quran 26:80. Okay. وَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينَ. So when you end, you don't say يَشْفِينِي, because when you talk about yourself in Arabic, you will say يَشْفِينِي أَنَا, me. So you will normally add a ya. But here, similarly to Surah Al-Kafirun, the noon is only ending with a kasra, not with a ya, for smooth of recitation and end of verse. And the other thing I want to tell you, my brothers
Sorry,
and sisters.
brother, no, I don't get it. You mean?
So, for example, let me just give you an example from standard Arabic.
Surah or?
From standard
but
Arabic.
When there is ayah, we stop there.
Huh? I cannot hear your question.
Like when we see the ayah closing, right? So we must stop. Like, for example, we must say Waliyadeen.
Yeah, unless you complete and say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. But the point is not that. The point is that normally in Arabic, there's a ya when you talk about you in the first person singular I. Like for example, if you say in Arabic, my name is, you say ismi. Or if you say something that belongs to me, kitabi, with a ya, right? That relates to the first person singular I. But in Quranic Arabic, this has been cut down or cut or simplified to a simple kasra instead of the ya. For easing the recitation, for the waqf, when you end, you don't say, for instance, waliya dini, waliya din.
You mean it's related with the math?
I'm sorry.
Flow of the
Yeah,
math.
it's related to the
You
method
mean
of
mad ada di
It has
sukun
been
ya?
simplified. Yeah, it has been simplified to a kasra. Yeah. But the other point I want to make, which is related, there are actually 3 qira'at to this verse, number 6. If I can remember them, brothers and sisters, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on 3 different occasions, he recited this verse 3 different ways. One of them is the one you see on your screens, lakum dinukum waliya din. Another one is lakum dinukum wali din, wali din, not liya. And the third one is the one I told you, lakum dinukum waliya dini. So there is actually 3 valid recitations of this, different recitations of this verse, brothers and sisters. So one is liya din, another is liya dini, and the third is wali din, wali din. And these are documented and accepted qira'at, or reading or recitations of the Quran, as attested by the recitations of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so for Hafs, we just say waliya din, qira'at Hafs. Okay, so who wants to recite? Let's take, let's see,
I
anyone?
start.
Okay, Sister Bonita, Sister Brother Yusuf, followed by Sister Nida, followed by Sister Bonita, followed by Sister Farzana. Okay, Brother Yusuf, let's do it. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم
You can
عابدون
make it long, the same way as you make this la long, you can make this la long.
ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين.
Jazakallah khair, brother.
وياكم.
Lakum dinukum, there's ya here. Lakum dinukum.
لكم دينكم ولي دين.
Very good. Jazakallah khair, brother Yusuf.
وياكم.
Jazakallah khair. Now look, everybody, you notice something here in verse number 4. There is a little grayish dal, right?
It go
What is
here.
gray here?
It go mutajasinais. Mutajanisain. Because the
MashaAllah,
sukun
Sister Bonita is very good in tajweed. MashaAllah. Yeah?
I have the book. Alhamdulillah.
Explain it to us, please.
Now is it called idgham mutajanisain when in my Quran there is supposed to be dal sukun meet with the ta. So it will be merged to the ta. So it should be abad, not abad, not the two.
Very good, very
that
good, very good. So there is no qalqala here, no qalqala. We don't say وَلَا أَنَا عَابِدٌ مَا عَبَدْتُمْ. Very good, sister. You know why? If you do phonetics, you know, phonetics is the science of sounds. Actually, these two sounds, the sound d and the sound t, are both pronounced in the same part of the mouth, behind the teeth. The tongue is just behind the teeth. So they are merging sounds, d, t. The only difference is one is voiced and the other is voiceless. Abadtum. You don't say abadtum, dit. So you don't need to repeat d and t consecutively. So you merge them into abadtum. That's why this shadda here. عبدتم. All right, good job, mashallah.
Yeah.
All
What
right,
we
next.
call in tajweed, sorry, can you repeat the word in Arabic? What is the tajweed? Ghafir?
عبدتم. So let me check. It's verse number 4. ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم. عبدتم.
Yes,
No
idgham.
qalqala. Although it's harf qalqala, we don't make qalqala. And that's a signal that this is a gray letter, so no need to make a qalqala there. You just make the sound merge with the sound ta, because they are similar, close to the same place of articulation. The and ta, the letters the, d, and letter t have the same place of articulation, location of articulation in the mouth. All right. Jazakallah khair, brother and sister Bonita, for your knowledge. Let me see, Sister Nida, would you like to recite?
Yes, Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Sister Bonita, you remove your hand, but I'm just following the order of the hands. Okay, go ahead, Sister Nida.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين.
MashaAllah. Thank you, Sister.
جزاك.
All right, Sister Bonita, please go ahead.
yes. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair, Sister. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah, brother.
Okay, now it's Sister Farzana's turn.
Yes. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين.
Okay, Sister, Jazakallah khair. Very good. Can you recite the last one here, this last verse 6, please?
لكم دينكم ولي دين.
That's much better. The difference that I noticed before you said lakum dinukum waliya din, you kind of make a little pause on the meme sound to kind of sustain it a bit, but that's good now, the way you read it the second time.
دينكم ولي دين.
Barakallahu feek, mashallah.
Yes.
It's either Safawiya, so we said very clearly about this. Like either.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, either
That's very
Safawi.
nice. Right, mashallah. Sister.
No, brother, and in ayah 4, so it's we say also decide it because when wala ana because it's when now followed by if na prior by alif, it said it should be low, it should be short. What do you call it in English? If different with when you if different if you if there's hamza in front of na, so it will be long. But if before is alif, so it will be not no harokah. I mean.
Okay, I think I understand what you mean. You mean for the hamza, right?
Yeah. So it's different if in front of na is Hamza, and if in front of na is alif. Different
Right.
harokah for that.
Yes.
Alif is
mashallah.
not read here, right?
I'm sorry?
Alif is not read here. Wala ana.
Yeah.
It's in no harokah in that because it's in front of na is alif. Yeah, it's correct. So what you recite is correct.
Yeah. Jazakumullah khair for all this feedback. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Okay, so inshallah we are gonna meet next week. We continue with the next chapter of the Quran, chapter 110, inshallah. Surah Al-Asr, I think. Is it? No. Is it Al-Asr?
Nasr.
Al-Asr. Al-Nasr.
An-Nasr.
Quran 110.
Nasr. Is it Nasr?
Al-Nasr, right.
Nasr.
This one also is relatively short. It's actually 3 verses long. So inshallah we can discover it next week. Jazakumullah khair, brothers and sisters. Inshallah we can make the dua for completing, our class today. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. So meet you next week inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum everyone.
Iyakum. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, brother.
Thank you so much. Wa iyyakum. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.